Right, so welcome back everyone, and it's finally time for me to actually start doing these modding tutorials. Now, originally I actually planned to do them a little bit later on, but since I have quite a few to do, I'll be covering everything, of course, ranging from, I'll be trying to cover everything from mission scripting all the way down to importation of actual models. I actually went ahead and decided to get started with the actual modding tutorials right now. So in case you didn't read the title, this one is basically about just very basic mission modding, how to add units to a mission, how to remove units from a mission, how to give units very basic commands, and you can actually do quite a bit with this, more than most people would assume. But basically we're going to be editing what you call scene files. Now, a little bit about the tutorial structure itself. I will not be doing a separate episode for what programs you have to specifically have in order to mod. I will be instead, for every single modding video, I will be leaving the related programs in the description down below, and I'll be quickly going over them as we progress through with the tutorial. But anyways, another thing that you guys should know is that this tutorial was intended pretty much specifically for 4.0, BS Mod HQ 4.0 and 4.1. I will go ahead a little bit later on and explain specifically why. But if you want to go ahead and watch this tutorial and mod Battlestation Pacific Vanilla, that is version 1.0 or version 1.2, that is actually fine. I will actually be going over specific steps that you need to take in order to actually mod Vanilla compared to 4.0 or 4.1. You just need to do a few extra steps with every single step that I would take normally with the 4.0 or 4.1, but it's certainly doable, and I'll go over that. Now, a little bit of a forward before we actually get started. Battlestation Pacific modding, I will go ahead and say right now, it's definitely not for everyone. Generally with coding itself, you have to have a very specific mindset on how you approach problems and stuff like that. You have to have a certain mindset in order to understand it easily, and in order for you to capture the events and what's going on right away. And one huge thing with basically anything related to modding, whether it be mission scripting or importing models or whatever you're doing, texturing, who cares, it's experimentation by yourself is a huge part of this. What I'm going to show you right here is certainly very useful for most of you, but I will say that when I started modding, 95% of the things I learned by myself, simply by muscling through the original vanilla content, and that's completely fine. If you get stuck, that's completely natural. If you get stuck at any point and you don't know what to do, when I was starting out, I was feeling hopeless all the time because I was looking at the code and I was like, what is happening? That is completely fine. Don't feel bad about that. That's just a natural process of actually learning how to code, not necessarily with the Battlestation Pacific, but with any coding language. If you feel stuck, don't worry about it. A huge part of this, and the best way to learn, is struggling through it yourself and finding the solutions by yourself without anyone helping you. Of course, if you have any questions or anything like that and you're really stuck and you want to ask me, that's completely fine. Go ahead and email me. You can ask me in the comment section. You can do both if you want, but I'll do my best to actually try and respond to everything. Now, of course, I'm not a know-it-all. Of course, I am definitely far away from knowing everything, but I will be sharing my knowledge of what I've learned so far with this. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So basically, all you need to have for right now is a program called Notepad++. This is the baseline of all modding. Pretty much you will encounter Notepad++ necessary, whether it be with mission scripting or importing models or texturing or anything like that. Notepad++ is absolutely a must-have. It's a free program. It costs you nothing to download it. It's a really small program. It's available in thousands of languages, thousands of both coding languages and actual languages. So this is a must-have. You cannot mod without Notepad++. Another thing, specifically for people who are going to be modding the game in vanilla and not with 4.0 or 4.1, you're going to need this program right here, Battlestation Pacific Ripper, or BSP Ripper for short. It's basically extracting files that are normally extracted with 4.0 and 4.1, but I will go more into depth about this a little bit later on. Ever so often I'll bring up the Ripper and show you guys who are modding on vanilla what to actually do. Right, so you're gonna need your Battlestation Pacific folder. Now, if you're in Steam, that's usually in Steam app is common, but if you installed the CD version, then it's somewhere else, depending on where you actually installed it. Now, This is a 4.1 installation, as I said previously. This is what it would look like. Generally, this is a completely new one. I just copied a new folder, new 4.1 folder, and just installed it. Nothing else is installed. So this is what you will get right here. Now, there are a few important things to do. Now, with this tutorial, I'm pretty much only going to be focusing on this folder right here. This is basic mission modding, and I'm just going to introduce you guys on how to basically mod basic missions. Now, yeah, so a little bit about the folder structure right here. All of these folders, of course, are related to something with the game. For example, scripts include the Lua mission scripts. Universe includes scene files. Sounds are, of course, self-explanatory sounds. Models are right here. As we go through tutorials, we're going to be going through all of these folders sooner or later, and I'll be explaining them what they do by themselves. But of course, as I said, experimentation is a huge part of this. So if you feel like, you know, checking out what's in this folder, you can go ahead. I will encourage you to do that on your own time, but right now let's keep it focused. So if you go into the universe folder right here, you will see two folders, library and scenes. For now we will go into scenes and then missions, and right here, as you could infer, we have three categories: IJN, which stands for the Japanese campaign, Multi, which stands for multiplayer, and USN, which stands for the United States missions or campaign. Right, so I decided to go ahead and include a mission that is easily modifiable, that, you know, is well known, that has both aircraft, patrol boats, ships, aircraft carriers, all of the types, and I went ahead and decided to do Invasion of Midway. So right, so if you go into the actual folder right here, you will be seeing a bunch of these files right here. Now, if you don't have the little Notepad++ icon next to the actual SCN file, you can just go ahead and right click it, click properties, and then go to change right here. And if you simply change, you can select Notepad++ from here, click OK, and then it'll tell you apply right here. Now that'll make it so if you actually double click on a file by itself, it won't ask you to open with, it'll just tell you, oh yeah, it'll just open it with Notepad++ automatically. Right, so your directory may look a little bit different. You may be lacking some files or be having one file extra, but specifically what we're going to focus here is these SCN files right here. These are scene files. Basically what they are is they contain basic mission information. They contain such things as the weather of the mission, the environment, what the ocean looks like, and initial unit dispositions across the map, and basic unit orders like landscapes, islands. If there are any islands like that, they'll have that and stuff like that. So very basic. It's basically setting up the scene for the mission. Self-explanatory by the name. Anyway, so I went ahead and decided to, of course, go ahead and modify the Invasion of Midway mission. Of course, each name corresponds with an actual mission name. So if you double click that, it'll maybe ask you to open it. If it does that, just say yes, and it'll open it for you right here. Now, this is what you'll be greeted with, and I know it's a ton of info, but don't worry. All you have to do, as soon as you enter any SCN file, this is usually what you have to do. Go up here to language, go down to L, and click on Lua. It may take a few seconds. Then some of these numbers should be yellow. You should have blue stuff all over that, but that's fine. Then you're gonna go to View, Fold All. That is basically what you do every single time you open a new SCN file in Notepad++. Now, if you didn't notice right here, I went ahead and clicked on Lua. Now, some of you may know that Lua is a coding language, and that is right. Battlestation Pacific is coded completely in Lua. Now, that is not as important right now as it will get later on when we get into the advanced mission modding, because then you'll encounter scripts, and those scripts are coded completely in Lua. This is basically just a modified version of Lua. It's not completely Lua. All you have to do is just go over here and click on Lua. Nothing's scripting much. This is all you'll see right now. Anyways, now this is still quite a bit of info, but right now you could actually see entity and then a name for the entity. Now, an entity is anything, can be anything in the mission, ranging from a single object to multiple objects. It can be a plane squadron, a ship, I don't know, an island, a cloud. You can see there are clouds right here. You can see, maybe recognize some of the ship names right here, landing points, anything ranging from that. Now, right here, as I said previously, an SCN file introduces the mission scene. And if you can right here, these pluses right here let you open an entity right here. This is what I call a ship ID, or you can call it an entity right here. This basically contains, if you open a ship one, for example the Yamato right here, Yamato right here, you can see the name, the entity name, and then it's such things as the position. Local frame is the position on the initial position on the map. The template, which is basically just a model template, and if you expand right here, you can get into actual properties, and you can see stuff as initial commands, initial properties, whether it's hidden or not. Multi-tap is for multiplayer. You won't have to worry about that unless you actually start making multiplayer missions. What party it belongs to, its actual class, and stuff like that. Now this is right here is what they call the unit ID card. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it an entity card, a unit entity simply, or whatever it is. As I said, it contains all the properties. Now let's start from the top right here. So the entity, this is the entity name right here. If you're modifying existing vanilla units, don't change this, because there are references in the actual script file that go to these units, and if you call this, for example, A, as I did right now, and you save it, when you run the mission, the script will try to call Yamato class 01, which is as it was previously called, and it won't find it, and the mission will crash when something else bad will happen. So if you're modifying simple existing vanilla units, don't change the entity name right here. Only change the entity names if you're to make new units, which I will go over just in a second right here. So destroyer gen, this is just simply a name for what type of a ship that is. There's a mothership gen, which is aircraft carriers, there's paths, there's navigational points, there's submarines, there's movie camera positions, there's clouds, there's PT boats, there's all kind of things, every single type for every single class in the game. Local frame, that is the initial position of a ship on the map. Now pretty much the biggest thing you're gonna focus usually when you're copying a lot of ships or making ships into a formation is this part right here and this part right here. Now imagine any map in Battlestation Pacific as an XY graph. I don't know, they call it the Cartesian graph, some people just call it an XY graph, some people just call it a geometric plane. If you've ever taken any math class, you're probably familiar with that. I'll probably have some graphic on the screen showing what it actually is. And basically any map functions as an XY graph with 0 for both axes in the dead center of the map. Now the things that I pointed out right here, this value right here shows the X position of a ship, and this value right here shows the Y position of a ship. So just inferring from the numbers right here, negative 8,000 right here means that the Yamato class will be on the left side of the map, and negative 1,000 or positive 1,000 right here will indicate that it's in the upper side of the map. So top left, the Yamato right here will be in the top left, roughly in the top left. Now you may be asking what the rest of these are. This is an altitude. You'll mostly use this with planes or submarines if you want to have them submerged. Of course, the higher this is, the more positive this value is, the higher the ship will spawn. So if you make it this like 500, the ship will spawn all the way up in the air and it'll fall back down. So you can create funny montage videos like that. And submarines, of course, if you want to make it underwater, you just make this like negative 50 and it'll spawn underwater, which I will show you a little bit later on. Now all of these values right here, I would not suggest modifying each one of them, because they are facing values that determine what direction the entity is facing at the start of the map. Now I'm actually not really sure what each individual one means. I tried modifying them, but they usually end up in really quirky positions. Well, it will be facing like straight up and the ship just kind of fall onto the ocean, you know, on the wrong way. So what I would suggest instead doing, if you for example have the Yamato class right here, and you need to think of what other mission, if you want to have it facing, I don't know, completely left, for example, you think of what mission has a ship that starts off facing completely left. Now let's say it's the Fuso right here, the one above it. So let's say that the Fuso right here would be facing the direction you want the Yamato to face. All you're gonna need to do is simply copy that part on the coordinate plane and just simply paste it over that. Now the Yamato will face the same way that the Fuso is facing. That's just an example. Anyways, let's move on. The template right here. Now this is a bit of a mixed bag right here. I found that sometimes when I change this, the mission crashes. Of course, this has to be synchronized up with the Yamato right here, so I would suggest, regardless of whether you're doing multiplayer mission or a single player mission, regardless of what people tell you, always change this so it accompanies the actual type ship class down there. For example, if I want to change this to a Fuso class or a Nagato class, then I would just type in Nagato class right here, Nagato class battleship, and then I would simply change this to Nagato as well. Usually what happens is if you have one of these as Yamato right here down, if I had this down right here as Yamato and this as Nagato class, the game would crash and it wouldn't be able to load the actual entity. Anyways, next up is properties. Now this actually, you can close this and open this if you just want to have a short view of the class right here. You can open this. Now camo color gun actually doesn't do anything in Battlestation Pacific. I would have thought from the name that you could maybe color in the guns a little bit differently and stuff like that, but it actually doesn't work. Not really sure why devs included that. Who knows? Now command. This is quite an important one. This is what I was mentioning previously with simple, very simple unit commands. Now here we go, I just opened the Battle of Iwo Jima scene file and I found the command I was looking for. So there are a bunch of commands out here. This is just one of them. For example, if you want to have the Yamato class attack something specific, if it's controlled by the AI, all you're gonna have to do is go right here and paste this one right here. The command type attack move right here. And then your command target is just what specifically was gonna attack. So let's say it was gonna attack the Yorktown class 03 right here. Not really sure specifically what that one is. All you need to do is just paste the name right here. Now when the ship spawns, if it's controlled by the AI, all it's gonna do is just simply move towards the Yorktown and attack it. If the Yorktown dies, then the ship will stop dead and it won't turn. That's one of the disadvantages of using this system, but for now that's all you have, since we are gonna be getting into specific mission scripting functions a little bit later on. There's also a move order, there's a move to, there's a move on path, but of course you guys can go ahead and find that on your own, because experimentation is a huge part of this. So basic unit commands, very basic unit commands, but with this you can actually create some really cool concepts. I like, for example, a survival mission, just something on the top of my head where you can have a single ship surviving endless waves of enemies and just have this command right here. This command right here for every single one of the enemies, and it'll just attack one unit, and it works in that kind of system. But anyways, moving on, fire stances. This is simply just delineating whether the ship is allowed to free fire on its own. There's hold fire, there's a bunch of other ones that I don't exactly remember off the top of my head, but free fire just allows it to fire at anything that moves into its range. Hidden right here, you won't really need to use this for now, for specifically this tutorial. This comes into play later on when you want to have reinforcements appear a little bit later on in the mission, when we're gonna do advanced mission scripting for Lua script. We're actually gonna be using this quite a bit to actually have like a reinforcements group spawning in, and then you can have a bunch of ships hidden at the end of the map, and then you can generate them in the mission script. Unfortunately, you can't really do that in the scene file, since it's just basically an initial unit checking this position, but that's pretty much what it is, so you won't really be messing up with that. Multi-type, as I said, ignore this for now. This only comes into play when you're modding multiplayer missions, and we're not going to be doing that this tutorial, but we're going to be covering that later on. This is an interesting one right here, party and race. Now these two are of course related. Now you might be confused, it says Japanese right here and it says Japan right here, so which one is which? Party is what side the unit is on in the game. Like it'll appear blue on the tactical map and you won't be able to select it and play at it if it's the opposite side you're playing at. So Japanese right here, that's for the Japanese side, and if I put Allied right here, the ship would be on the Allied side and you wouldn't be able to play at it, and of course all your units would shoot it, because you know, of course it would be a Allied ship. I'll show you how this works a little bit later on. So race instead has nothing to do with actual game mechanics, it just says which flag is on the ship. So Japan carries the Japanese flag, USA it'll carry the American flag, GB Great Britain, German for German flags, Dutch for the Dutch flags, a bunch of these. Anyways, moving on, let's leave that Japanese for now. Repair zone area, this just simply allows the ship to actually repair itself in the mission. Nothing real big right there. Scene group number, this is only the vanilla missions use these. I would suggest removing these if you're making any units of your own. This is just basically, I'm assuming this would be something that would assist the actual game developers as they were making, because at the bottom right here there's a scene browser group and they have a bunch of these groups right here, of course, like buildings and actual Japanese ships, but you can honestly just remove this. I don't really see the point of using this at all now. Probably the most important one at the bottom is ship classes right here, the type. Now this is the actual name of the ship, the actual class that the ship is going to get. As I said, it sometimes that doesn't line up with template up here. You're just gonna have to experiment with that on your own, but you might be wondering, well, what exact name would I need to use for the specific ship? For example, if you were to, for example, do the Admiral Hipper class from BS Mod HQ, you wouldn't write Admiral Hipper, because this is actually not the actual name. Now, if you want to check what the actual name is without the mission, without having the mission crash, you can usually do that by going into Universe, and by backing up into the Universe folder and going into Library, and opening this file right here with Notepad++ called global.enums. Now, without getting too much into this file, we're gonna go through this file in a later tutorial when we're gonna be making missions and when we're gonna be importing units. Or this isn't as important with missions itself, but it can serve as a really good reference point. So of course you're gonna go to language Lua, and for convenience you're gonna go to fold all. Now of course you can this file basically just lists all of the classes in game and gives them reference names. All you're gonna do is go to enum vehicle classes, and this opens all the vehicle classes in the game and their respective IDs. Every single class of course has an ID that you're gonna have to remember for later on. Anyway, so we said we were gonna change, for example, the Yamato class. If we want to change it to the Prince Eugen or the Admiral Hipper right here, this is the correct name for it right here, the Eugen. It's actually not the Admiral Hipper. If you were gonna went ahead and actually changed this to the Admiral Hipper instead of the Eugen, the game would crash. So you have to make sure you have to have the exact spelling and name. Right here, Eugen. There we go. Now when you load in the mission, it should have the Prince Eugen as its unit. Anyways, let's change this back to normal. We're not gonna modify anything yet. Now there are a few other properties right here which I'm gonna show you that could be useful to you. One of them is start speed. I'm not sure if any ships actually have. Yeah, no ships have in this mission. Maybe in Iwo Jima. Yeah, start speed right here. Start speed right here. That one allows you to set a specific speed that unit has right as the mission starts right here. That one works very well with another command right here. If you go over to command, you can copy this over right here. This is the cruise command. This basically means that when a ship starts, it'll start off sailing straight up unless you tell it to do anything else. So that's really cool for cinematic intros, where you have like intros where units are coming into a mission and they're sailing forwards. You'll see that a lot in my missions. Personally, I have them sailing at the start, and a lot of AI missions do as well. So that is something that you could actually find quite nice, especially when you're making cinematics and stuff like that. Another thing that you may find of interest right here is skill levels. You have anywhere from stun, you have rookie, you have regular, you have veteran, and then of course you have the last one, the hardest one, elite. This basically tells the game engine what a skill level the actual unit should be. Now of course I don't really recommend messing with that too much in the actual scene file, but of course it's something that you should keep a mind open when you're actually making this, because you may want to have very hard missions to just simply for it to be fun. And the last thing I'm gonna go over, of course, the thing before the last one, I actually have two more things, is numbering right here. This is only with American ships. Numbering, basically, in case you didn't notice, all American ships are capable of actually having numbers in the game. But if you have any notice, maybe like Fletcher class destroyers or Iowa class battleships, any sort of vanilla ship has a numbering right here, and you can set the numbering up right here correctly, and it'll display that number on the actual ship. It'll probably have some graphic showing that in here, and whatever you put in right here, that'll show up on the number. And the last thing, and one of the most important things, is GUI name. You can also set this in the mission script. I'll show you in the next tutorial. But basically, the entity name up here is not displayed in game if you don't have a GUI name, or if you don't set it in the mission script. The actual name of the ship in the game will just be its class name and then dash class. It'll be like this. So let's say this was a Clemson, this was not an LSM, let's say this is a Clemson class. If you don't have a GUI, and if you don't have a GUI name right here, it'll just simply show up as this. This is what it'll show up regardless of what the entity name is for the class. Now if you want to make it say something specific, if you want the Clemson class to say USS Patterson instead, all you have to do is just simply type in USS Patterson in here. And now the actual GUI name, graphical user interface name for the actual unit in the game will be USS Patterson. Very simple, but yet incredibly important. Anyways, now let's actually run over some other ones, for example, some other important ones. For example, the next one I'm gonna show you is aircraft carriers. So let's go over to, no, let's go to a Japanese one. Are there any Japanese one in the game? Let's see. Kagi. Oh, I think they're spawned from the script anyways. No, Kaga. There it is. Perfect. Anyway, so let's look at an entity template for an aircraft carrier. Right, so it starts off the same way. Has the local frame, which is the position, properties, and stuff like that, all the way up to plane stock. Now, these are stocks for planes. You're only going to be modifying this for your own ships that you're going to be controlling. Any sort of AI ship will not really be affected by this. And so far, by the way, the command for attacking, if you want to have an attack command right here, I don't think it works with actual aircraft carriers. You can try it, of course. I'm not really sure. If you have an attack order on an aircraft carrier, I don't think it will launch planes by itself, even if it's controlled by the AI. But anyways, plane stock 1 through 4. Each aircraft carrier has 4 slots by default, and this basically details what is specifically in these slots. Now you have slots, plane stocks, and then you have slots down here. Now there is a possible number of 8, but I don't think it actually works with the carriers that you control. AI carriers can have up to 8 slots, and that's what I use extensively in my missions. On veteran difficulty, for example, I'll have like enemy carriers have more slots the more difficult the mission is, but that's all in the very advanced mission modding. Anyways, plane stock right here, of course. We have count, specifically how many aircraft type, type of this aircraft the aircraft carrier carries. So you have 20 zeros up here, then you have 20 zeros down there. These add to a total of 40 zeros. Squad limit max size does not do anything at all, since in Battlestation Pacific you cannot launch squads of more than 3 planes as you could in Battlestations Midway. So this is just, I would just suggest leaving this at 5 always, because it doesn't really matter. And of course the most important part, the type of plane. Of course, for this you're also gonna go to global dot enums. If you wanna have the Avenger, you're just gonna look up Avenger, and it's spelled exactly like that. So all you're gonna do is just copy the name over to here, right here, and then you should have that specific name right here. Anyways, whatever you change for plane stock, you should also change for slots. If you want to have zeros in your first slot, if you want to have a Kates in your second slot, and vals in your third slot, as it is displayed right here, make sure you have them made in that order right there. So in this case, the Kaga is going to have the 0 here first, and the Kate second, and the val third. And the equipment index just basically tells the game what equipment is actually allowed to be held in plane. 1, for example, for the Kate is torpedoes, and 1 for the val is the dive bombs. Plane count, you can always just leave this at a comment about 3. I think this has something to do with the number of squads, but for every single squadron, I suggest just copying code from other aircraft carriers and leaving it at 0. Anyways, something else to talk about is landscape and stuff like that. Let's see where the landscape is. Usually it'll be at the top with vanilla missions, but you never know now. These, of course, you can move all of these right here. You can make them facing really weird ways, but basically you can have, as you can see right here, entities inside of other entities. For example, right here, landscape 1 is Midway Island, and you have all of the airfields on. You have all of the coastal guns, all of the landing spots, all of the buildings, watchtowers, anything you could ever imagine. That's actually on Midway Island, and the mission is an entity within an entity. Right, so what this basically means is if there is an entity inside of another entity, all that means is if you move Midway Island, for example, if I want to move it from -600 to -2000 Y position, all that means is that these entities that are inside of Midway Island are gonna move with it. So if you change this to -2000, you don't need to change this position right here. That also means that whatever position this is right here is relative to its parent entity, to the entity that it is in. That's basically what it means. Now you may not understand exactly what that means, but I will show you that later on. No worries. Anyways, with that, one last thing I'm gonna go over is the header up here, the basic properties of the mission. And right here, as you can see right here, is actually detailing the actual weather, the terrain color, the post-process, the environment, how the ocean looks, and stuff like that. But another, a few important things that it does is go right here. This is one of the important things, and that is the actual size of the map. Now, these two specifically right here are what we're looking at right now. So We can see right here then the map for the invasion of Midway is 20,000 meters long. By the way, all of these units right here for distance are meters, which is, you know, an in-game unit. They had to pick something. 20,000 units long, so that means that it's gonna be 10,000 units in one direction, 10,000 units in one direction for the X, and of course for the Y it's gonna be 10,000 units up and 10,000 units down. So that's basically what it means. You can increase this to how much you want. I've never actually tried to increase it as much as I can. I'm not sure what the actual max size is. I guess that's something that we can actually cover in this tutorial. But border zones, this is basically just detailing what part of the border zone belongs to. If you have a aircraft retreating outside of the map, then it's going to go to the nearest border size of its party, or that's neutral. That's basically all it means. Next up is sound. This is basically what music is allowed for every single one of the parties. Party 0 is the Americans and Party 1 is the Japanese. You can we will specifically be messing with music switching when we get into advanced mission scripting, but for now all you can do is, if you want to have some fun, you can make your own FSB files, which I will show you in a later video. If you know how to do that, then great, you can make your own FSB files, replace those with these right here, and then you can have I don't know, a different calm track, a different tension and defeat right here, and all of these are like all over the place right here. Let me just find some. For example, custom right here, you can have like a different action one, different calm one. You can have, I don't know, your own music. You can have different in-game music. You can have Battlestations Midway music, whatever you want. So that's the sound of the mission, or the music, or ambient, whatever it is. And this is arguably the most important part of the header right here. And this is actually these 5 categories right here, the actual scene setup. Now, starting from environment, this mostly details the illumination of the mission. It tells you what skybox is using, how the lights of the mission are looking, which way the sun is facing, stuff like that. The ocean right here, of course, self-explanatory, describes how the ocean looks like, how big the waves are, what's like the acoustics of the ocean and stuff like that. Post-process is basically just HDR, motion blur, and like how the ocean looks underwater, what like tint the color that the mission is. If you have like a sunset map, then you might want to change this to like a little bit of a purplish color right here. Then we have terrain right here. This is basically detailing how the terrain looks. Now, if you didn't know, depending on the mission, terrain actually may look different. If you have Midway Island and, I don't know, Cape Esperance, it would look different physically than it would in the normal Midway mission. I'll show you more of that a little bit later on. Anyways, weather right here, of course, focuses on if there's any fog, if there's any rain around, if, you know, specifically if the clouds are affected by wind. You can see false right here. And we will go over this specifically more later on. Now, without further ado, let's actually try to modify some of these missions. Now here we are, I have loaded up the game, and I will be having it in windowed mode, so it's easy for me to, you know, just go ahead and switch right here from the Notepad++ window into the game. I would suggest doing that, as you don't have to like tab out of the game every single time you want to change something. But anyways, let's go ahead and load up Invasion right now to see what we have to, you know, specifically mess with, to see what kind of units we can actually change up, so I can show you guys how to actually do this in real time. Now, every time the mission loads right here, just something quickly to go over, it is actually loading the scene file right here. If you know how to use Process Monitor, you can see that in action. But right here at the loading screen, it is loading all of the entities, and that's listed in the SCN file. It basically first looks at the SCN file, sees what kind of entities that has present, and it loads all of that in. When you press any enter key in the mission, it'll load the script, and as you can see right here, it starts the actual mission itself. I've disabled sound so I can actually speak clearly over the mission, and we are in. So this is basically just a normal unmodified mission right here. Shouldn't have anything extra in it. It's adding the objectives correctly and all of that. Anyways, let's move on to modifying it now. So this is quite a large map, as I said. 10,000 units up, 10,000 units down, 10,000 units left, 10,000 units right. And then we have our main ships right here, and our submarine, and all the allied units are present right here. Anyways, now let's actually go back right here and try to modify something. So first thing that we could try to modify is the map size. If you want to make it bigger, let's try 40,000 in each direction. That should make the map much bigger. All you have to do is, when you modify a scene file, make sure you click the save button right up here, and all you have to do is go back in the game and restart the mission. For now, just for scene editing, for SCN file editing, that should be all you're gonna have to do, because every time you restart the mission, it reloads the SCN file. Again, now it may of course take some time to load in the mission, especially if you have a lot of entities, but you're gonna see later on when you're modifying basic mission files like the mission tree or vehicle classes, then you're gonna have to restart the game every single time. But we are not at that point yet. Now in the description I will actually have a sort of a hack for the game that the actual developers used when they were developing this game. Is you can actually speed up the game itself by pressing a certain key, as you can see right here. That's very useful for testing. I will have instructions for it on how to actually set it up and install it in the description down below, in case you want to see it. Anyways, we are in the mission right now, and let's see our changes. Oh boy, look at that. The map is so much bigger right now. If you want to make the maps incredibly big and have tons of units everywhere, this is very good. Now, mentioning the hack right now, if you hold the unit right here, you can see the mission is going much faster. You can have it slow down, you can have it go a bit faster, a lot faster. It's quite useful. It allows you to do quite impressive things, but I'll have the link for that in the description anyways. Now let's try to let's have some fun right here. Let's increase the map size even further. Let's try 100,000. As I said, I'm not even sure exactly where the specific limit is, but let's just see what happens. You know, this is a bit of experimentation for me too. As I said, experimentation is a very big part of the entire process. You gotta be willing to experience new things and look at stuff in a specific way in order to get it to work. Anyways, let's skip through the intro real quick. And oh boy, that is a huge map. Huge map. Well, anyways, that's basically how you do how you increase or decrease the map sizes. We're gonna keep it at that. It's a pretty big zoom. Holy crap. Anyways, moving on. So that's the map sizes. Cover that. We're not gonna be changing any music in this video. You guys can try that out by yourself. Now, this right here, the actual environment things. Now, if you're just starting off, I would recommend for you to actually not modify any of these values individually. If you like a certain weather from a certain mission that you really like, for example, if you look at the weather right here, you decide, oh, I don't really like this weather and post effects and the way the ocean looks. Okay, that's fine. Then you can simply go ahead and open an SCN file from a different mission. Let's say it is meeting the Germans, which is IJN 12. Let's say you have that. Make sure you go to language Lua, fold all. As always, you can simply go to header. Open up the very last section as I did right here, so you can see there's always a final curvy bracket right here. You gotta make sure you get the curvy bracket right here. You will understand why specifically to do that if you know a bit of coding or Lua by itself, but basically, in case you don't understand how it works, all you have to do is just make sure you open the last section. Whenever you're copying like sections, or whenever I want to copy like let's say all of this, make sure to open up the very last one and select from the last bracket. If you copy from here, it won't select the last bracket and it'll mess up your entire code. Right, so for example, if I want to copy the weather from meeting the Germans, all you gotta do is select from the last bracket, copy everything up here till the environment, go into your existing mission script, go up to weather, and go from the last curly bracket to environment, and then just Control V. Now yeah, it'll look very messy, but all you have to do is just go to view, fold all, and it will be good again. There, now this mission has the weather from meeting the Germans. Now of course make sure you save every time you change anything. In order to see your changes, all you have to do is go to restart mission. As I said, all SCN changes, simple scene changes, should only require a restart of the mission, nothing else. And here we go. Now that looks cool, doesn't it, huh? Well, there you go. Now you change the ocean, you change the way the mission looks, you change the post effects, the way the sky looks. This is a really nice sky. I really like this guy from meeting the Germans. That's basically how we do very basic sky modification, stuff like that. Later on, if you know what you're doing, you can get very specific. You can change, specific values. But for now, I would just recommend messing around like that. Anyways, that's it for the header. Right, so anyways, well, without further ado, we're done looking at the header right now. Let's actually get into some unit modification. We're gonna be modifying our Fuso class battleship right now. As I said previously, do not modify, if you're modifying vanilla units, do not modify the entity right here for now. That'll mess up the entire script. The script will try to call a non-existent entity and it will crash your game. Anyways, what we're gonna start off with, we're gonna try to change the actual class of the Fuso to let's say a Congo class. So all you gotta do right here is change the Fuso class battleship to Congo class battleship, and change the Fuso down there to Congo. I just happen to know that that is exactly what the global.enums says that it is called, but if you're not sure about what a unit is called, go to global.enums, and if you know that it's Congo but you're not sure if it is, then just type in con and it'll tell you down here. You may find something that will go Congo, and you can just change it by yourself. But anyways, let's see how this affects gameplay. All you gotta do is again restart the mission, and that should be good then. Takes a while to load, but that is fine. It loads in, and boom, our Fuso is now no longer a Fuso class. It is a Congo class. You can do this with pretty much any ship you want. If you, for example, want to change the 2 Takawas to, I don't know, the 2 Takawas there right here. If you want to change them to aircraft carriers, for example, oh, that's a fun one, let's do that. All you gotta do is go over to an aircraft carrier, pretty much just copy it from down there, from the properties tab right here, and then just go to the Takao class, start from wherever you started copying, paste it right here. It'll look open up, but all you gotta do right here, you just change that from here, change this to Hiryu, and make sure to change destroyer gen to mothership gen to the correct type. That's all you gotta do. All you gotta do then is restart the mission. Now that will look quirky as hell, for sure. Now, of course, many of these may look messed up because they're actually a GUI name, or the graphical user interface name may be different from that. Well, let's see, where is it? There, right here. Now we have second Hiryu class, the Takao class, right here. Now that does look quirky, huh? And it's available right here. Anyways, that is pretty much it. Now, moving on from that, pretty much all we're gonna do is let's see. What else can we do? Oh yeah, we're gonna add our own unit now. If you want to add a new unit, which is definitely something you're gonna end up doing later on, is all you gotta do is copy an entity. If you have like a preset number of like properties you want your new unit to have, for example, if you want a Fuso class with 3 fire stances and same class, so you can just copy that one. Go to an ending bracket of or always, if you want a new line, if you want copy something, remember you always want to start from the ending bracket. So if you, for example, go over here and you enter, then it will just go inside of that entity. So make sure you go into the last bracket, expand it, last bracket, and then enter. That brings you to a new space where you can then copy your new entity. Of course, let's change this. Let's make it 0-0, so the unit starts off in the dead center of the map. That way we can, make it a bit different. Let's now, of course, if you make a new unit, you can call it whatever you want. You can call this my ship. Let's make it. What should we make it? Let's make it the Yamato class. Good old Yamato class battleship. Make sure you change it right here, and you actually go to your GUI name. You can call it whatever you want, of course, through the GUI name. GUI, not really sure how to say that. Paste it anywhere you want. Like, just call it, I don't know, my ship, and all of that stuff should be fine. We don't need launch class ID. Launch class ID is basically what kind of aircraft does it launch from its catapult. We don't really need that, do we? Restart the mission, and you should now have a Yamato right here. Now, with this knowledge, now you can go ahead and add a bunch of units that you want to. I don't know, a different map. You can have enemy units, you can have your own units, and you can have like choke points and have place specific units in specific places. That kind of stuff you can do with your own. Now there it is. This is my ship, and it is the Yamato class right here. My ship Yamato class. Now, of course, the GUI name, the command as it says, this is now called my ship. Anyways, that is pretty much it. How you actually add new planes. Now, another thing that I really wanted to go over is actually how to add aircraft to aircraft carriers. So if you want to go to, for example, your Kaga right here, Kaga class, you can go ahead and if you want to add, instead of a 0, you want to have Raiden spawning, you can just change this name to Raiden right here. And if you're, of course, if you're ever not sure about how something's called, go to global.enums and start typing in a few letters, maybe Ra, Ride, Raiden, right here. That's the plane classes, that's the correct one. And there you go. Now it should, instead of zeros, if the aircraft carrier can carry those planes, it should be able to spawn Raidens. Now there are a few planes that certain aircraft carriers cannot carry. For example, one notable exception that I noticed is that the American Vogue class cannot carry Wildcats for some reason. Not really sure why that is, but hey, it's like that. And now there we go. And now the Kaga, instead of zeros, has a bunch of Raidens. It still has zeros from the other one, but now it has Raidens as well. You can launch Raidens for it as well. You can even have American planes in there. Pretty darn sure. Let's try changing this to a Wildcat, which is of course the F4F. This is, of course, this tutorial is not really for professional modding yet. I feel like this is more of like for people who just want to mess around, have you know, a mission with a bunch of units. Of course, the Battlestation Pacific has its limits. A little warning to anyone who just wants to go around and messing around with the units right here. A Battlestation Pacific definitely has its limits, and I would say like 100 units in a mission, it'll probably make the game crash. Now, of course, right now we can launch Japanese Wildcats. If that's your thing, who knows, maybe the Japanese stole a bunch of Wildcats and now they have some of their own. But anyways, it's basically how we do that. If you want to make my ship of the other side, if you want to make it allied, for example, all you gotta do is go to allied right here on not to races. Races is your flag. Now if you want to make it US ship, have a US flag, then you just go USA, and party is what determines what side it is on. So instead of Japanese, you just write allied, not USA, allied. Remember that. If you put USA, your game will crash. But to restart the mission, and now my ship, the comically named my ship, the Yamato named my ship, will be an American ship instead of a Japanese ship. If we go over it right now, of course we can't see it because it's actually a Japanese ship, or an American ship. Sorry, if you launch a recon plane from the, oh yeah, the Congo doesn't have recon planes. The Dakar right here, and you send him over down there. Holy crap, this zoom is hectic. And you send it down here. Now you can see my ship is an American one. Now another thing that I really quickly want to go over is aircraft entities. So in case you didn't notice already, there's a separate type for specifically for aircraft, plane squadron gen right here. Now this is a PBY one, not really sure. I think this is the scout aircraft one. But basically, with aircraft there are a few extra properties that we're gonna take a look at really quickly. Now right, so for actual number of planes that you're gonna see, I think there's some in Iwo Jima actually. I think it's squadron, maybe plane squadron gen. Yeah, there's a lot of super fortresses right here. Like for aircraft, we have a few extra things. Now equipment is what kind of equipment the aircraft is actually carrying. So let's actually copy this B-29 Super Fortress line of code and let's paste it into the Midway mission. Here we go. Now let's just call it, I don't know, my plane for now. And nice, so it has actually a command target that we can test out that as well. And let's actually spawn, let's make it spawn 5,000 up and 0, so it'll be centered completely in that regard, and simply 5,000 units upwards. And of course we will be having it spawn in the air, so make sure this is not 0. If this is 0, the plane will spawn on the ground and it'll simply crash into the ground right away. So let's have them at 1,000 units of altitude. And of course the template is good. Let's actually change the template to yeah, let's change it to the TBF Avenger. Yeah, let's make it an Avenger instead. Yeah, so make sure this is the type right here. You make sure to change this to torpedo bomber, to, you know, corresponding type, since this is an Avenger. We gotta make sure to change it to the correct type. Now let's have 5 planes in a squadron. This is, we don't need these lines of code. Home base just basically means that if you retreat it or land it, it'll land at a nearby airfield. Equipment, 1 means that it'll have a torpedo if this was at 0, or if you remove the line, it will spawn with nothing. It would not have any special weapon, just machine guns. And let's give it a target actually. Let's make that Avenger squadron attack the Fuso class right here. Let's see this in action so I can show you guys exactly how this works. Anyways, now this will spawn relatively close to Midway Island. They should spawn relatively close to Midway Island. Anyways, yeah, so we just quickly want to go over the planes case in review. When I actually add a bunch of planes to your maps, which is completely fine again. Now, oh, what do I see right here? That is a plane squadron. Looks like 4 planes. And are those the Avengers? I would think so. Yep, there they are. Oh, 5 Avengers. Yeah, we had 5, not 4. My bad. Right, so here come the 5 Avengers, and basically what the AI will do is basically it'll just attack that one target. So if you speed it up using the hacks, all that they will do is simply attack their designated target, and if the target dies while they're attacking it, they will simply, you know, stop dead in the water. Again, one of the disadvantages of such simple commands, but at the same time, it does allow you to do some basic cool stuff. Right, so another thing that's going to be quite useful to a bunch of people who are going to be doing some basic modding, basic mission modding, is the move to command. Now, this is the type of command that basically is very self-explanatory. It just allows a certain unit to move to a certain spot. So since we're having the Avengers attacking, let's have my ship, the American Yamato clone over here, move to a certain spot. Now move to does work with units, it can work with nav points as well. So we can have it move to one of our ships, but instead let's make it move to a nav point. Now you'll find nav points by this unit type right here. I don't know what this is. This is a fleet check. Probably just like a checking nav point or something like that. It will just copy that one. We'll have it at let's see, Y position 5000 and X position 2000 is fine. It's just for, you know, checking in. Let's give it a new name, Yamato Go 2, something like that. And simply all you gotta do is, now that you have actually made a new nav point, is just copy the command move to and just replace the command target with Yamato Go 2. Always make sure you have the quotation marks, because that delineates its actual entity name. So let's simply restart the mission over here, and we should have our changes implemented. This is again a really simple command, nothing too complicated right here. However, this does allow you to actually do some quite interesting stuff in certain missions. You know, just have stuff moving all around the place. So now let's launch a recon plane to see if our changes have worked so far. And we should be seeing the Yamato moving towards our coordinate point L. Yep, it is moving. Yeah, so that's basically how you just make a ship move towards a certain spot. If we go zoom into it right now, we will see that it is indeed sailing forwards. Of course, it will shoot at you unless you have a non-firing order activated on it. But yeah, that's basically how you do nav points. Now, one other thing before we conclude for now is, as I said, I'm going to have a section for specifically people who are going to mod in vanilla, and that's exactly what I'm going to go over right now. For scene files, you're going to bring up your very handy Battlestation Pacific Ripper. If you're modding vanilla, you're going to be using this a lot. Now let's say I want to, you know, modify Invasion of Midway SCN. All you got to do is go to Open Game Map file. It may take a while to actually load it in. No, mine takes a while. All you gotta do is locate your actual vanilla folder. Mine is Battlestation Pacific Vanilla, and the vanilla folder won't have all of the same folders that the actual modded game does right here. As you can see, there's like much more folders than here than it has this one right here. But that's simply because 4.0 and 4.1 simply extract all the files that previously weren't extracted with the vanilla version. Let me show you right here. The MPACs right here are the types of files that you know, have all the content packed up. So if you go into the MPAC folder, that's where all the MPAC files are. We have classes. Classes are simply MPACs for different types of vehicles, all the vehicles you can imagine in the game, from ships, aircraft, buildings, vehicles, jeeps, trucks, whatever it is. They're being here. Global is for global stuff. We won't be going into that right now. Global is for later tutorials for more advanced stuff like global scripts and stuff like that. Specifically, what we're going to be focusing right here is the scenes folder. Now, these are all MPACs, of course. MPAC is the file type that packs up all of the normal game content. Now, in a 4.0 or 4.1 installation, if you go into MPAC, they're still there. However, they're all blank. If you look at the file sizes compared to this right here, these are all hollowed out, as they're called. These actually have content in them. Because basically what Access Crasher, the leader of BS Mod HQ, realized is that you can extract all of the content from these MPEG files. And then even though if they're still there, the game will read those MPEG files, it won't find anything in them, and then instead the game will go into the actual root folder and go around searching for the correct file here. If you have Process Explorer, which is a program that allows you to see what a specific program, what kind of files it's looking for and modifying in real time, you can go ahead and monitor Battlestation Pacific, and you will see that a 4.0 installation of Battlestation Pacific, the game engine checks the MPEG file, it doesn't find anything, and then it just simply searches the entire directory for the actual mission script. So let's say it was looking for something in 0IJN01, which is the Pearl Harbor, one of the Pearl Harbor MPEGs. It doesn't find it in here, then it'll instead go search the entire directory for it, and when it finds it, it'll modify it. So that's basically what it is. It simplifies modding very much in the sense that you don't have to unpack and then pack the MPEG files back up every single time you want to mod something. In 4.0 or 4.1, which I strongly recommend for modding, all you gotta do is just modify the files directly from the actual root directory, which is not possible with vanilla. Anyways, with vanilla, as I said, everything is packed up. You can see these are all full of data right here. Now, scene MPEG files. Basically, how this goes is you have different numberings of the MPEG file. So you can see I have 0 IJN01, then I have, if I scroll down, 1 IJN01 solo, and then I have 2 IJN01, and then I have 3 IJN01, and it goes all the way down to 6. Now this is because I would assume the game developers could not fit everything into a single MPEG file, so they had to kind of split it up. I'm not really sure what exactly in each file, but if you simply go over and open it right here, you can see right here it lists all of the files that are present right here. So it just happened that the 0.ijn01 contains the scn file right here. This is the type of file you're looking for. All you're gonna do when you find your desired file that you want to extract, you're gonna go to select all and then extract select files. It shouldn't take too long if there's only a few files. From there, you're gonna go to open folder. Now, a noticeable bug that I realized with Battlestation Pacific Ripper is if you click on open folder and it brings you to like the documents folder, it doesn't bring you to like the actual mission folder. You have to run it in Windows Vista compatibility settings and as administrator. That's the only bug that I really encountered with it. But anyways, now it'll open the extracted files. It's usually new program files and then extracted files, and then here you have the normal files that you would see in a 4.0 directory. It'll be right here, mission scenes, IJN, attack on Pearl Harbor. Let's see, you want to modify that, you open it, it's just a normal file, you do the same thing, Lua, view, fold all, it's the same thing pretty much. After you're done modifying it, close it. You can, you know, keep this folder open if you want to modify it later on. Then, what you're gonna do is go to this section right here. You're gonna select your MPEG file if you want to pack it up. You're gonna select it from, you're gonna select the file right here. So I made a separate folder for that to make it easier for me. So let's say I wanted to pack up, I don't know, these are all the stuff that I've been modding, like my own models and stuff like that. Let's say I want to pack up, this is my Pearl Harbor one. Let's say it was that, so I press it right here, now it's selected, and all I gotta do is click pack new MPEG. Now of course it doesn't find it right here because I haven't actually modified it in a while, but basically what it would do is it'll show a little progress bar down here, percentages, and it basically packs it up. And then once it says done packing up down there, you're gonna go to open folder, and this is where all of your new MPEGs will be made. Now all you gotta do is maybe have a few folders open, one for the extracted files and one for new MPEGs. Every single new MPEG will be down here. All you gotta do is copy that file down there and copy it over to your vanilla installation. So I have a bunch of versions down here, right here, and then you can have your open right here, your folder open right here. Copy the new MPEG, move it over here, and replace it, and then you should be able to restart the mission. Or maybe with vanilla, you have to restart the game. Not really sure. Again, experiment with that. That's pretty much all of this. That's pretty much the difference between pretty much anything you're gonna be modifying with vanilla. All you gotta do is just add an extra step every time you want to modify something in. Anyways, if you want to modify vanilla, that's up to you. I'm not judging. I can understand why people want to mod vanilla. It's much more organized. With 4.1 and 4.0, they're kind of messy in my opinion, stuff like that. But anyways, now where is my previously right here tutorials? Anyways, that's pretty much it for now. in this tutorial. I hope you found it helpful. I know it was kind of hectic all around the place, but that is pretty much it. Yeah, so I hope you guys found this useful. Again, if you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask me, but I cannot emphasize enough. This is about experimentation on your own part. You gotta make sure you know all this stuff, and the only true way to learn all of these concepts are by experimentation. Now, one last thing I want to say before I finish this up is Battlestation Pacific was never intended to be modded. As we can see by the actual game structure itself, it is very clear that none of the developers actually planned for this game to be modded at all, and that is why it is very modding unfriendly. And as I said before, if you're running into trouble, that's completely natural. This game was never supposed to be modded. You're not really supposed to be doing this right now, ever, but with the help of actual modders like Access Crusher and people like that, we are actually able to mod it quite easily. So anyways, this is just a first part in a very long series. Hopefully I will be making some very expansive and much more complicated tutorials later on. Next up, I'm hopefully going to be getting to advanced mission modding, into script files, into Lua files, specifically deciding what happens in the mission. I'll maybe need even a two-parter for that, who knows. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed, and again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me or email me, but remember, experimentation. But anyways, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial or video or whatever it will be. Have a good one.